Hey everybody, it's Gauntlet and welcome back to another draft of Guilds of Ravnica. I was about to say Ravnica Allegiance, but that's not till next week. Still here with the good old Guilds of Ravnica. So we start off with a pretty bonkers mythic rare here, 4 mana for a 6/6 hexproof. The downside is you can't cast non-creature spells, but it has an interesting ability where for 2 mana, either player can shut off all of its abilities. So if you use this ability, you can then cast non-creature spells during that turn, and if your opponent uses that ability, they can turn off its hexproof, so they can use something to kill it. So this doesn't have any trample or any way to break through for extra damage, so it gets chump blocked pretty easy by heavily token generating Selesnya decks. But other than that, it's still an incredible amount of power and toughness for the mana cost, and it's very resilient to removal thanks to that additional 2 mana that your opponent needs to spend to try to target it with something. So still a really powerful card, and it's only in one color, so it's entirely possible to end up in Golgari or Selesnya with it. So it doesn't even tie us to just one guild. That being said, I don't see anything great in Golgari in this pack. There's just Spider and mediocre removal spell. All of the removal spells that require you to sacrifice a creature to use it, or have a creature fight or something, are generally going to be worse than the ones that just destroy something, because you're having to spend 2 of your cards to get rid of only one of your opponents. So we're much more looking for deadly visits and stuff this early in the pack. So I don't like any of the green-black cards here. Centaur Peacemaker is okay, but it's not something I'd take this early. Rock Charger's pretty nice in Boros and Selesnya. Obviously, in Selesnya, we can pick up our creatures like 6/6s off the ground. All of a sudden, we're attacking them with a 6/6 in the sky. That seems pretty great. Boros does seem pretty open in this pack, but there's only one card taken out of here, so really, whoever took a card out of here isn't even committed to a guild yet. I think we definitely take Rock Charger there. It goes with Nullhide Ferox the best, and it is a pretty powerful card, as we saw in our last draft. Thoughtbound Phantasm is pretty good as well, but that's a Dimir card, pretty far off from our Nullhide Ferox, and I think Rock Charger and Thoughtbound Phantasm are pretty comparable in power level. They're both pretty great. So out of this pack, we do have Sumala Woodshaper in Selesnya, which is a good value card, 4 mana for a 2/1. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, pick a creature enchantment from among them, put it to your hand, the rest will go on bottom. So just a good card to give you some card draw off the creature, as well as putting a creature on the board for convoking stuff like Siege Worm out. There is also Siege Worm, which is pretty nice. One of my favorite convoke cards in the set. Blade Instructor for Mentor. Blade Instructor does combo with Rock Charger quite well, as we saw in our last draft. I like all 3 of these. Don't really like Artful Takedown. I'm going to take Blade Instructor first, actually, here, just because we already have the Rock Charger to go with it. And here we are again. I don't know if there's something weird going on with the pack distribution, but I feel like every single time I've drafted this set, I've gotten duplicate rares like only a couple packs away, so there's another Sacred Foundry when we just saw one a second ago. So what do we have here that's not just a land? We do have Centaur Peacemaker, Pax Favor, a Golgari, Guildgate, a Sacred Foundry, but as I said, I'm looking for what isn't just a land right now. Command the Storm is a decent removal spell, and Sinister Sabotage is a nice counterspell because it also triggers any Surveillance energies in your Dimir decks. So I'm thinking Peacemaker, the Guildgate, or the Sacred Foundry, or maybe Command the Storm. I guess I'll just take Peacemaker and try to make a pretty clear signal to the other drafters that I am trying to be scooping up all the Selesnya cards. Fresh-Faced Recruit is pretty nice here, but we could take another Blade Instructor to go with our Rock Charger. Outside of that, there's a decent amount of red here. We could take Wojek Bodyguard if we end up wanting to push into Boros. Seen quite a few red cards in general. So it could be a pretty good guild to try to jump into. That being said, Blade Instructor is going to go fine in a Boros deck as well if we end up moving in there later. And that way we could still have access to Nullhide Ferox. Peacemaker I'm more okay with cutting, but Nullhide Ferox plus Rock Charger just seems like a super fun time. Yeah, I'm going to go with the fresh-faced recruit here. Now there's a Siege Worm I like. Oh, Rosemane Centaur, though. So Siege Worm is a more powerful creature, but it is a decent bit more expensive. Rosemane Centaur is really, really nice. It's very efficient for its cost. 5 mana for a 4/4 Vigilance at the absolute most, and if you convoke it out, you could get this out maybe even turn 3 if you just play a 1 mana 1/1, then a 2 mana 2/2. All of a sudden, turn 3, you have a 4/4 Vigilance. That is a huge game. Rosemane Centaur is very nice, but we would definitely like to pick up Siege Worms for the top end of our curve later on. Another Rock Charger or a Siege Worm. I like taking the next Rock Charger here. Now we're definitely going to take 3 mana mentors like Blade Instructor very highly. But yeah, Rock Charger is going to go great with Nullhide Ferox, go great with the Centaur, great with Siege Worms if we start picking those up. I'm loving Rock Charger in the green deck here. Pretty great to pick up your gigantic green fatties. Now we'll take a Ladev Guardian, but I'm not super happy to run that card, so that'll be one of our first cuts if possible. We can take a Hunted Witness pretty easily here. As I said before, with the Rosemane Centaur, the Convoke cards like Rosemane Centaur really make you want to curve out with a 1 mana creature and then a 2 mana creature so that you can play something like Rosemane Centaur turn 3 when you have the nuts draws. So it's really nice to have like some Hunted Witnesses or some Healer's Hawks kind of things. Looks like all the Siege Worms are disappearing. Unfortunately, people are starting to take those at this point. I will take a Wojak Bodyguard in case we get pushed into Boros. And yeah, now we have Command the Storm and Wojak Bodyguard and a Boros Guildgate late. Boros is seeming pretty open, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get pushed into there, especially because all those Siege Worms are disappearing. There's definitely other people in green. Now, what do we have? We do have a Siege Worm, which I like a lot. We have District Guide. District Guide will help a lot if we end up just trying to splash into Boros in a way. Has the Marshal would be another 1 mana creature, one that can even start spitting out more tokens if we can get enough creatures out before our opponent has any blockers. There's also Citywide Bust, but I'm not a huge fan of this card. It's one of those cards that seems pretty dependent on what your opponent is playing. A lot of times it's not going to kill the stuff that you want it to kill. It's definitely more of a sideboard card, and since this is Premier Draft and not Traditional Draft, there will be no sideboarding allowed. I think I'm going to take the District Guide, just because Boros was seeming open enough that I think at the least we'll probably end up splashing a little bit of Boros here, and District Guide helps us pick up our Boros Guildgate to do that. Obviously, at the most, we might just have to move into Boros, but looks like not yet. Crawl Harpooner seems like a pretty fantastic green card to pick up here. 2 mana for a 3/2 reach. If nothing else, that's already well above the curve. Gives you protection against flying in your green decks that are very grounded. We already do have a couple flyers, but still nice to have some reach. And 3 power for only 2 mana is good as well. The secondary ability is that it can fight a flying creature when it comes into play. And it gets +X/+0, where X is the number of creatures in your graveyard when it comes into play. So you can fight Healer's Hawks really easily and just eat them up without even losing your Crawl Harpooner. And it only takes 1 creature in your grave for Crawl Harpooner to get big enough to fight something like a City Watch Sphinx or a Watcher in the Mist, 2 of the most popular, most dangerous flyers in the format. Now we'll take Amara, just get rewarded here with an on-color rare, quite a good one as well. 2 mana for a 2/2, and whenever she becomes tapped, you create a 1/1 soldier with lifelink. This is really nice because obviously if your opponent doesn't have any blockers, you're just getting a 1/1 every time you attack with her, but otherwise in a Selesnya deck, you've got plenty of Convoke creatures to try to tap her that way. So Amara is quite nice here. I could take another Boros Guildgate, a Parhelion Patrol, a Selesnya Locket, or a Wild Ceratok. I already have a lot of stuff going on at 3 mana, so I'm not really looking to throw a Locket in here. I think it's between the Guildgate or one of these random 4-mana dorks. These are both pretty mediocre. 2-power mentor creatures aren't often going to get a lot of mentoring going on, but in our deck, since we are Selesnya, we will have 1/1 lifelinking soldier tokens to mentor onto, so Parhelion Patrol could actually do some mentor work here. Also, it can mentor onto Rock Charger. Rock Charger only has 1 power as well, so that's pretty nice. Here I definitely want to take Siege Worm, because those were disappearing out of the last pack, and that is something I'm very much looking forward to casting at the top end of our mana curve. Just really like the idea of sending in with a Siege Worm and a Rock Charger. And here's a real easy Rosemane Centaur. Another card that's great with these Rock Chargers, and just great to try to curve out early. Nice, sturdy, efficient creature. We don't have any removal yet, so I think I'll have to take the Prey Upon here. And this is one of the better guilds for Prey Upon, because we do end up with decks like we have right now that will have a lot of sturdy enough creatures to survive a fight. We've got Nullhide Ferox. That would make Prey Upon cost 3 mana, but that's still super castable. Rosemane Centaur's got 4 toughness, Siege Worm's got 5. We got lots of stuff that could fight something and survive, so I think Prey Upon's pretty nice here. We have Siege Worm or a very cheap small removal spell like Righteous Blow. If I'm really scared about like Boros and stuff, I'd like to pick up Righteous Blow, but I think I still just want a Siege Worm. This is a pretty late Watcher in the Mist, so that's a good sign for any of the Dimir players. They'll be happy about that. Same with Izzet. Honestly, any blue deck, Watcher in the Mist is quite good in. Another Siege Worm? Well, now I'm kind of disappointed I didn't just pick up the Righteous Blow there, because I don't know about 3 Siege Worms. I always like to have at least like 2. We'll see when we get to the deck building how many Siege Worms I'll end up keeping. The Guild Gates are going pretty late as well, at least the Dimir Guild Gates. Maybe this would be a draft to try to do the 5-color thing. If you're trying to win in this format, I would pretty much never recommend 5-color. Ravnica Allegiance did have some much better Guildgate 5-color build-around shenanigans. So if you want to try drafting 5-color, I'd wait till next week when Ravnica Allegiance is the draft set, and that could definitely be a good time. So we can take a Selesnya Guildgate to be fixing our mana, but I'm hoping that that will wheel, because we are seeing Guildgates and lands pretty late. I feel like it's probably more likely to wheel than the Blade Instructor, and I do really like the Blade Instructor plus Rock Charger combo. At the same time, I can't use Rock Charger as my justification for literally every single pick, which is kind of what I'm doing here. But Blade Instructor does work nicely with plenty of our other creatures. So I think Blade Instructor is fine here. And we're not running anything that is super difficult to cast. We don't have the Conclave Cavalier, which is like the Crackling Drake of Selesnya. It's 2 green and 2 white. I think if we had that, I would just slam the Selesnya Guildgate there. But our mana base is not that difficult. The only card with a difficult mana cost at all really is kind of the Nullhide Ferox, just double green and 2. Other than that, like Siege Worm, by the time we're at turn 7, we should already have 2 forests basically no matter what, and we can convoke one of the green mana. So yeah, our mana base is really easy here. I guess I'll take a Generous Stray. It draws a card, helps convoke things out. Not bad. Could take another Centaur Peacemaker just to hold off the Boros decks. It is quite good at that. Centaur Peacemaker is basically just designed for that. You get a 3/3 on the board to trade with whatever they're aggroing you with, and then each player gains 4 life. You don't really care about the life that your opponent gains when you're against a Boros deck, because that matchup is entirely going to come down to if you stabilize or not. If they kill you before you start casting, your late game creatures. So I think it's really good in that matchup, so I would like to pick up some more of those later, but they should go pretty late in the packs. World Soul Colossus is pretty great. Enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, and it's a green, white, and X plus it convokes. So it's just another creature for the top end of the curve, another creature that's like everything else in this deck I'd love to send into the sky with our Rock Charger. This pack's definitely going to be a Healer's Hawk, get our second 1-mana creature for the potential turn 3 Rosemane Centaur plays. For Naughty Shieldmate, I guess. I could splash in an Intervention. How many Boros Guild Gates do I have? I just have the 1 Boros Guild Gates to pick up off of District Guide, but with Integrity Intervention, we can play it as just a pump spell. I just don't have a lot of 2-mana creatures yet. So I'm really looking to fill that out, but I think Integrity and Intervention is definitely a justifiable pick here, but I'm going to go with the Vernati Shieldmate. Another Boros Guild Gates, or Skyline Scout, Inspiring Unicorn. Kind of like going with the Unicorn here. 4 mana for a 2/2. Whenever it attacks, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it attacks as a 3/3, and it buffs the rest of your field. Seems pretty fine. There's definitely an argument for the Skyline Scout. We're not like a super duper go wide Selesnya deck. We're more of a drop giant bombs later Selesnya deck. So this isn't the greatest deck for Inspiring Unicorn, but at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of the little Skyline Scout. So this is going to be an Assure Assemble. Selesnya is definitely open enough that we're getting pretty nice Selesnya rares late in the packs, which is cool. Would love to have this Rosemane Centaur, so I don't like that they're both in the same pack, but we do what we gotta do. Assure and Assemble for 2 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, and it gains Indestructible until end of turn, or for 6 mana at instant speed, create 3 2/2 Elf Knight creature tokens with Vigilance. So you get to flash those in out of nowhere, get a really good surprise block out of them, kill some kind of important creature your opponent has, or potentially just do that in the end step to get enough creatures to provide lethal. So Assure Assemble's a pretty nice card, mainly for the flexibility it gives you. Command the Storm, Gird for Battle, Golgari Guildgate. Not a huge fan of any of those, really. Definitely taking the Selesnya Guildgate now. It did wheel out of that pack, which is nice. That is what I was hoping for. And now we're going to start scooping up these Centaur Peacemakers, so I don't have to be completely petrified by the Boros decks. Don't really like Pack Beast in this deck. That's definitely more for a Boros deck, because you play this and tap down their 2 blockers. Not something I'm super looking to do in this deck. I guess Ladev Guardian. Don't really want to play it. Pick up some random Guild Gates. I guess I can pick up a Restorer. We'd consider playing that. Last pick, Selesnya Guildgate. Rewarded. Alright. Hey, ended up with 2 Guildgates. So we've got to make 8 cuts here. Selesnya ended up being pretty open, it looks like, which is nice. It is one of the less powerful, less popular guilds for sure. Green is one of the weaker colors in the set, so Golgari and Selesnya definitely tend to be the least drafted guilds. But that's kind of how these sets balance themselves out in player drafts. That's what's so cool about player drafts versus bot drafts. Back when it was bot drafts, the bots would kind of just draft every set the same way, you know? They would just draft whatever colors they thought were cool, you know? So every color would be evenly drafted. When you're drafting against other players, if the set is designed a way to where certain guilds or certain color schemes ended up being a little too powerful and other ones ended up being pretty weak, it balances itself out, because now that means there's probably going to be, like, you know, 3 people drafting Dimir, 2 people drafting Boros, 2 people drafting Izzet. Or maybe, probably like 2 Dimir, 2 Boros, 2 Izzet. That's 6 of the people in the pod, and then there's like only one person drafting Golgari, only one person drafting Selesnya, which balances out the power level with how strong the guilds are in general. That'll tend to happen a lot. It's pretty neat. Alright, so I need to cut a lot of creatures, basically. I have 2 non-creature spells. That is the biggest downside in this deck. We did not get any removal, really. We have a Prey Upon, that's about it. Let's cut 8 cards. Definitely don't want the Intrusive Beast. Restore's kind of whatever. The Guardians I'm not a huge fan of. Take out the Hitchclaw Recluse. I got double Rock Charger. I got a Crawl Harpooner. World Soul Colossus is going to be at the top end of our curve, so we'll throw it up there. Don't really want to cut any of my 1 or 2 mana creatures. I think we could cut some of our 3s, maybe even a 4. Wild Ceratox seems pretty interchangeable and insignificant in general. I like the cat a lot, but Instructor just combos really well with Rock Charger or Amara or 2/2 Vigilance or a 2/1 First Strike. Blade Instructor does a lot of cool stuff. There's no way I'm cutting Rock Charger because so much of this deck was built around that. Yeah, I guess I'll cut a Generous Stray out. District Guide is definitely better than Generous Stray. 1 more power and it always hits Selesnya Guildgate as the draw. Now I have 1 card to cut. I guess I could take an Inspiring Unicorn, but I think even though our deck doesn't have like the ultimate curve of just spewing out little 1/1 tokens, it's still got enough going on at the early mana costs that Inspiring Unicorn can come out for an aggressive start in some games. I may change my mind on that after a few matches. The Inspiring Unicorn definitely is very bad on the defensive. On the defensive, you're spending 4 mana for a creature that only blocks as a 2/2. Doesn't help you in any other way. But we'll just have to see how these games end up going for that. Really don't want to cut a Peacemaker. I don't want to cut a Siege Worm, but maybe that's the cut. I mean, we've got double Centaur. Even if we cut a Siege Worm, we'll have double Centaur, double Siege Worm, and a World Soul Colossus. So we'll have a decently sized top end of this curve. I guess I'll cut 1 Siege Worm here. And now we'll double check and make sure Arena did a good job with the auto mana base. 17 white symbols, 14 green symbols. We'll see how that lines up with the curve. 17 white, 14 green, 2 white 1-drops, and then green and white are pretty even on 2. Slightly more white on 3 as well, so we need the white a little bit before we need the green, and there's a little bit more white than the green. So I like 8/7. The auto mana base looks correct. Alright, I think this looks good. Let's hop into the games and see how well our first Selesnya deck goes. Okay, here we are, game 1. Not a bad curve at all. Just not the perfect curve. We don't get to go 1-drop, 2-drop Rosemane Centaur. But we get to go 2-drop, 3-drop Rosemane Centaur, which is not bad either. Then we have a World Soul Colossus to top it all off at the end of this game. Opponent is on Boros. That is a mountain and a plains. It's mildly hard to tell. The only thing I don't like about these lands, they are pretty beautiful, but every time I play up against them, I have to like zoom in my eyes like in Cyberpunk. No blocks. Ornery Goblin's ability will deal a damage to any creature that blocks or becomes blocked by it, so our recruit would die before anything else there. So, with a Wojek Bodyguard coming out, they can mentor onto Ordinary Goblin to turn it into a 3/2 when they attack, which is pretty scary. I could play Blade Instructor or Centaur Peacemaker here. Either of those would trade with the Bodyguard, and that is something I'd want to do. I think I'll play the Peacemaker first and try to trade with the Bodyguard, because if they have a... I should have poked them for 2 damage there. Wojak Bodyguard can't block alone, and I doubt I'm blocking with Fresh-Faced Recruit here. This play is technically mildly safer. They could have a Haste Preacher in Boros, but it was probably worth just poking them for that 2 damage there. The likelihood of Fresh-Faced Recruit blocking here is pretty low. But anyways, I played Centaur Peacemaker instead of Blade Instructor in case they had the 2 damage for 1 mana combat trick. Unfortunately, that's not what they had. They had Justice Strike, which would kill either of our creatures anyway. So, no blocks here, taking 6 down to 16. At least we got the 4 life out of the Centaur Peacemaker so that we're not just handedly losing right now. Kind of like dropping down a 4/4 now. We did get the Justice Strike out of the way, so Rosemane Centaur is mildly more safe on this board. And with 4 toughness, it can block any of their creatures except the Goblin without dying. Alternatively, I can play Healer's Hawk and Blade Instructor, then I'm going wider with my creatures, and I'll still be able to trade with the Bodyguard and get that off the board at least. Then I'd have to double block Shieldmate to kill that. I am losing a bit of card advantage there. I'm 2 for 1ing myself doing it this way, because I'll be blocking Shieldmate with a 2/1 and a 1/1 Healer's Hawk, but they only have 2 cards left in hand. I think I can definitely stabilize this game even if I start doing 2 for 1 trades here. Unfortunately, with stuff like Intrusive Pack Beast coming down, I'm not going to have good blocks. So if I take 9, I'm going to 7 life. Next turn I'll have a Rosemane Centaur on this board as well. I'll have all these creatures out, unless they have another Intrusive Pack Beast. I feel I can still stabilize here. Ooh, Assure and Assemble. Unfortunately, don't think I can just hold that up. But it could be good. That could be really good in the future. I think I gotta just drop down the Rosemane Centaur here. We're tapping the Healer's Hawk because it's the lowest power. Maybe we should have tapped Recruit instead, because the only thing that Recruit or Healer's Hawk is really going to do this turn is Chump Block. We'll see if they even want to send in now that I have a Centaur down. I'm hoping not. Looks like they don't. Okay, they have really opened the board for us to stabilize, because all 4 of the cards in our hand are going to be drastically better than anything in their deck on average, because they're an aggressive Boros deck. Their average card is probably going to be like a 3 mana 3/3. Every single one of these is worth basically 2 of their cards at this point, so I think we are in a really good position, especially because I can start chipping away and gaining a life a turn with Healer's Hawk. And that is what I plan to do. Just stabilize off the Healer's Hawk's life gain. And we have great blocks. The only thing we really need to worry about is if they have something in their deck that makes it so we can't block at all during a certain turn. Like a... God, I forget what it's called. I'm considering attacking with Blade Instructor and assuring it, so I can mentor onto Healer's Hawk and gain 2 life a turn. That seems a little much. Probably just want to wait for Assemble. But yeah, Cosmotronic Wave is like a 4 mana sorcery. It shuts off all blocks during that turn. That would be bad for me. I'll actually have to tap a green creature here because I only have 1 forest. If that's the case, do I just hold off? Because I don't really want to tap a Rosemane Centaur. I'm at 9, I'm probably fine to do that. This is a little riskier than I'd like. I definitely want to Siege Worm out. Still have 3 blockers. If they remove 1, we take 8 and go to 1 life. Actually, 9 with Wojak Bodyguard? Uh-oh. Yeah, no, that was way too risky. Probably shouldn't have sent out the Siege Worm this turn since it required tapping 2 creatures and it required tapping a Centaur. Because if they had 1 removal spell that turn, we would have died if they just had Luminous Bonds. So glad that didn't happen, but now I've got enough mana to cast Assemble at instant speed. So even if they shut off all of our blocking creatures, we can create 3 fresh ones to try to block with. So get in with Healer's Hawk, and now do we start poking them with the Centaurs and maybe actually just Assure instead? The only way they can kill... I guess maybe I just poke with the Siege Worm, actually. Because the only way to kill Siege Worm is if they double block with 2 3/3s, and if they do that, I can Assure kill 2 3/3s without losing a creature. Then I won't have the Knight tokens as a backup anymore, but I'm getting rid of 2 of their tokens, or 2 of their creatures by doing that, so it's definitely worth it. Let's get rid of the Mentor and the Vigilance, I think. Oh, they both have Vigilance. Yeah, we'll get rid of the Mentor for sure. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I feel like we're really stabilizing now. And I still have a backup World Soul Colossus. I don't think I'm going to cast this thing ever. This is just like... If they... if they have like citywide bust or something to destroy all our big creatures, we've got a backup super big creature. I will definitely cast Parhelion Patrol though, since that can mentor onto the Healer's Hawk, which is very nice. Sending in the Siege Worm because it's not the end of the world to lose it at this point, because the only way we lose it is if it kills 2 more creatures. So Siege Worm did plenty of work, it killed 4 of their creatures for us. It's okay to let it die now, because that means next turn we get to just smash that all attack button. With our 2 Vigilant Rosemane Centaurs and our Vigilant Flying Parhelion Patrol, we will have plenty of blockers, even just spamming in with everybody. Siege Worm as a draw makes me not want to do that as much. I guess these are Vigilant, so I can still cast Siege Worm after that. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We will make it so any of our creatures will trade by throwing a counter onto Fresh-Faced Recruit. So they don't have any blocks where they can just eat one of our creatures. Alright, they get rid of 1 Centaur, take a bunch. And we drop another Siege Worm. So this game went pretty well, and it went pretty much exactly as I was expecting, what I was trying to explain there. So they drew 1 more land than us. So while it feels like at the end of the game they weren't really drawing anything, it felt like they were getting flooded kind of thing. They drew 1 more land than us. They had 7 lands on board, we had 6 lands on board. So it wasn't that they were getting flooded, it was the thing that I was saying before, where since they're a really aggressive Boros deck, they're going to have tons of just really small, quick, aggressive creatures. Like you saw in the late game, they were just drawing like 1 mana, 1/1 haste, Torch Courier, or like 2 mana, 2/2, 10th District Guard. Whereas our deck, because we're a Selesnya deck, we're much more likely to have these big, chunky creatures that we convoke into, like a 4/4 Vigilance and a 5/5 Trample and stuff. So it was just due to the fact that our cards that we were drawing in the late game were going to be big Selesnya stuff that actually can eat multiple of their creatures every combat. So it just got to the point where when we were bashing in there, we were clearing their board of all their little tiny creatures. To the point where we were just basically getting card advantage just with onboard combat. So really really good game there. Really good just basic explanation of how the Selesnya deck stabilizing against Boros goes. Sort of the poster child for that. because we were under a lot of pressure in the early game, as the Boros decks will do to you. I'll keep this. We don't have any of our 1 or 2 mana cards, so it's a little bit slow, but we're on the play, so even if we are against a very aggressive Boros deck, they'll be slowed down just by that, to the point where we should hopefully be able to stabilize here. And if we're not against an aggressive Boros deck, then we'll have plenty of time, most likely. This is a relatively slow format. Boros is basically the only deck trying to be super fast. Burglar Rat, I don't love it, but I have District Guide to pick up another land, so I'll be discarding one of my basics here. And we drew into another forest. So I'm gonna drop the... Do I want to actually just get aggressive here? I think I want to Convoke out Centaur next turn, so we'll just play literally any creature. I'm just going to tap it next turn rather than attacking. Pick up another Guild Gate. Because next turn I'm going to go untapped land, Centaur, but then after that I have 3 mana cards with 4 mana on board, so I'll have time to play a Guild Gate after that. Pass Wall Adept from our opponent. They're able to give things unblockability for 3 mana. We draw into an Inspiring Unicorn. I wouldn't have wanted to play that this turn anyway, so I don't feel too bad about not picking up a Plains instead of a Guild Gate. Here's our Rosemane Centaur. We are against a Dimir deck, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a removal here. Could be Severed Strands, sacrifice a creature, destroy a creature, or if they wait a turn, they could have a Deadly Visit, which is very popular and very powerful. So... Nightveil Predator being a 3/3 flying Death Touch hexproof, I actually want to offer the trade with that, because I'm not going to have any way to deal with that if I'm not trading here. Looks like they're just going to do the chump block with the Burglar Rat. That'll fuel some undergrowth for them, if they've got any of that going on. I'm going to play a Centaur Peacemaker here. Sure, it's going to give them 4 life, but it is a 3-power creature, so it can attack into their Pass Wall Adept and their Nightveil Predator well. And I don't really need flying here because they don't have any blocks that threaten to kill a Rosemane Centaur. Oh my god. That is a bonkers mythic rare. This mythic is way better than ours. This is a 5 mana 6/6 flying trample, and they can pay 2 life to surveil 2, so they can set up their draws. The extra life that we gave them is a big issue for us too. I don't think that we have any answers in our deck. We just don't have enough removal to deal with this thing. Jeez. We basically just have Prey Upon in here. I can't attack into that now, so now I'm just going to start getting eaten up by incredibly powerful flyers. And even if I had the removal to deal with it, they're at 24 life, so if I were in their position, like, if Doom Whisper ever got killed, I would just, like, respond by surveilling a ton. I'm actually incredibly surprised that they didn't surveil at all yet. I think when you're at 24 life and you have the best creatures on the board, I think you're super free to just surveil like crazy. But at the same time, if they're bashing with both in, we can crack back, so... let's move, they're a little worried there. So let's see, I've got 5, 6, 7. I just need 1 untapped creature to be able to cast both of these. As long as Rosemane Centaur doesn't die here, which I don't think it will, because it'll be attacking with 5 power, I'll be able to Convoke out the other one and drop a Rock Charger. So we got to do the best we can. We got to try to race. But if they just don't block here, we just lose because they can give unblockability with Pass Wall Adept. They're playing it safe, which I am very happy about, because that'll make me not dead on board. So if they didn't block there, they could have given their Midnight Reaper, their 3-power creature, unblockability, and then they'd have 12 unblockable damage. However, that's only dead on board. That's not like actually dead. because I do have a flying rock charger here if they don't counter it. That would be 1 chump block on the Night Veil Predator. Well, I guess... No, they have enough mana. They have enough mana to use their creature's ability twice. So they could give 2 things unblockable and still put me down to like 3 life that turn. Oops, I accidentally minimized arena. Alright, here's our next Rosemane Centaur. We're gonna go to 3 this turn if they attack with both. I am not going to have a lethal return attack. There's Parhelion Patrol. They're just leaving the Doom Whisperer back here. Interesting. I guess I get to get in for 9 then. Then next turn I get to get in for 7? If they don't play any more creatures, then yeah, I attack in, lose Rosemane Centaur to get in for 9. If they have a counterspell or removal spell, I'm going to die no matter what, because they just kill Parhelion Patrol. We have to go for it. Just slam that attack button. Hit him for 9, put him down to 6. Maybe. They do have a removal spell for Rosemane Centaur. That might save us for a turn, though. That might be their only removal spell, in which case Parhelion Patrol actually gets to block instead of just dying to that. But yeah, we have to go for that attack there, because if we don't go for the attack there, we just die next turn and do nothing. Our only out to win this game is if we somehow race them, which is looking very unlikely now that both of our Centaurs are dead, unfortunately. They just had the backup Deadly Visit anyway. Really good, really choice Dimir deck there. Midnight Reaper, Doom Whisperer, incredible rare, incredible mythic, with Deadly Visit, Price of Fate, Sinister Sabotage. Just not much we can do there. And the really big, scary, mythic rare bomb creature definitely plays into our deck's greatest weakness, which is the lack of removal we ended up with. That is definitely what I suspect we will lose to in any of our losses here, is just not having removal spells if our opponent plays something that needs to be dealt with. We've kind of got to just hope for a traditional bunch of commons and uncommons bashing each other turn after turn limited game with our build. I'm going to have to mulligan this. Potentially if I hit any land, I can District Guide on turn 3 for a white source. I guess our opponent does go first. You know, I'm going to keep it here. I have 3 turns to draw any land, and I draw on the first turn. And it worked out. We obviously drew the white source turn 1. We drew our planes, so that works perfectly. That means we actually get to play Healer's Hawk turn 1 as well. Very nice. And we're against a Selesnya deck. They start off with a Vernati Shieldmate, 2 mana, 2/2 Vigilance. Not bad. Let's get our 1 lifelink in. Taking 2, down to 19. And they drop a Selesnya Locket. So they are ramping up. Turn 3. Here is our District Guide. I think I want to Plains here, because that leaves me open to be able to play Unicorn next turn, or I can play Centaur, only tapping my District Guide next turn. So I think I do want the untapped land here. Also leaves me open to play Parhelion Patrol if I want to do that. Lots of options, and just leaves them all open. Opponent goes for a Loxodon Restorer, gaining some life. This will definitely be a long game, Selesnya versus Selesnya. We're going to be gaining some life and dropping some impressive creatures on this board as the game progresses. With a 3-4 on their board, 3-4 and a 2-2, Rosemane Centaur is not going to attack super well into that. Kind of want to just play a Parhelion Patrol and start getting in for 4 flying a turn. I am letting them do 3 to move that Loxodon Restore, but that's fine because I've got a lifelinking flyer on this board that's going to be a 2-2 soon enough if my patrol survives. Our opponent has 6 mana now. And if they're convoking things, they've got 8 mana for convoke. Opponent does send in Loxodon Restore. Not gonna go for the trade there. Could block with District Guide and Parhelion Patrol to trade my Parhelion Patrol for their Restore, but that seems pretty bad. I definitely want to Mentor onto my Healer's Hawk. So... send in with Patrol and the Hawk, gain 2, hit him for 4. Siege Worm's a bit of a problem. But I can block with a 4-4 and a 2-2. If they have a combat trick, that would be pretty bad for me, though. Could also play a Fresh-Faced Recruit and hold up Assure. That seems pretty pointless. Yeah, I think Rosemane Centaur is just the play. And I'm going to tap Parhelion Patrol here, because that is the creature I want to block with the least. Because I want to keep getting in there with my flying. District Guide, though, I'll chump with District Guide all day long. Another Guild Gate for our opponent. Got a lot of mana over there. I expect that Locket to get cracked pretty soon. They get to draw 2 cards off of it when they do so. And here comes the Siege Worm. Well, let's see what they got. If they don't have anything, I'll trade a Rosemane Centaur for a Siege Worm any day. Response. Alright. Super fine with that. We got rid of their big, scary mythic, or rare. Not mythic. But this could have given them an additional combat step and all of their creatures first strike and vigilance. So really, really scary if they hit a Boros Guild Gate. So I'm fine getting that away. So you're just back to the hitting them for 4 a turn. Now they're down to 13. Yeah, and we got rid of their removal for one of our flyers as well. So we're kind of all in on that plan. They've only got 1 card in hand now, so they're on, let's see, 4. They're on a 4-turn clock. 3 turn if we use Assure to give a +1/+1 counter on at some point. So I've got 5 mana here. Could play a Fresh-Faced Recruit. Could play a Unicorn. If I play a Unicorn, I'm just going to take Siege Worm to the face. World Soul I could play as a 4-4, but then I still take Siege Worm to the face. Kind of play World Soul as a 6/6 if that's ever possible, so I could prey upon. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 mana, so I currently only have enough to make World Soul as a 5/5, and that's if I don't attack with Healer's Hawk next turn. So I would need... I need 1 more creature to make it a 6/6, and I need 2 more creatures to be able to make it a 6/6 and prey upon in the same turn, which is what I really want to do. Like, if I could tap out for that next turn and kill Siege Worm, that'd be fantastic. So I think I really want to play a creature here. I guess I just play the Recruit. Because, like, Unicorn, I'm not going to attack with the Unicorn. And Recruit, like, if I have to chump block, is more fine with me. And I can hold up Assure that way. Yeah. There's my Recruit. Drawing the 2 cards with the Selesnya Locket. Heading into combat. I could assure my Parhelion Patrol just to be able to block Lockstone Restorer and trade it with my Recruit. I could do that on Siege Worm too. Yeah. Let's do that on Siege Worm. Assure the patrol. Okay, that's really nice. Yeah, that means I get to mentor another counter onto Healer's Hawk as well, which speeds up the clock. They do have their own Healer's Hawk, but I can fight that with mine to gain some life. There's a Bounty Agent. Alright. Okay, I'm a huge fan of that. Oh, and Crawl Harpooner's the draw, so I can save Prey Upon for something else. That's really good. Yeah, that's definitely the play. Yeah, I'm very glad that I saw the Assure block, because that was huge. Because now I get that counter for patrol, which means I get a counter on the Hawk here. So they're down to only a 3-turn clock. And I've got Prey Upon backup still. Could Prey Upon and kill Restorer like right now, but I'm at 19 with 3 lifelink every turn. I'm not worried about anything that they currently have on board. We'll just hold on to it for something else. They do have a demotion, so Parhelion Patrol can't block, but luckily we are pretty much on the aggressive here. Could trade off Crawl Harpooner for something here, just be safe. I guess I'll trade it for Bounty Agent, that's mildly better than Shieldmate. In case we draw Tristani, they could kill Tristani with Bounty Agent. If they wanted to. That doesn't really seem like a thing. Down to 2. It's going to take 1 more attack to win this game. We'll send out a 5/5 World Soul Colossus since Parhelion Patrol can't block anyway. Just get a big blocker out here, be safe. But I think we got this one. They'll have to kill both of our flyers with this 1 card. Defkaran Dissident is not going to do it at this point in the game. So that should be it. Yep, there's the flunge, the final attack, and the concession from our opponent. That leads us to 2 wins and 1 loss. That was a pretty nice game, just using Mentor nonsense onto Healer's Hawk. Alright. Let's head into another round here. That game definitely made me feel more alright about this deck, but the lack of removal is definitely an issue. But kind of seems like the only issue, really. Everything else in this deck is operating pretty well, and this hand's pretty fantastic. Amara into Blade Instructor. Our opponent is going first here, so it's very unlikely we'll get to start doing that. They are more than likely going to have some creatures coming out, ready to block any of our Mentor shenanigans we try to get into. Opponent goes Selesnya Guildgate into Swamp. So they're Abzan, they're Selesnya or Golgari, probably splashing the other one. But you never know, they could be 5-color or something. We're just going to drop the Amara if they've got the cheap removal. They've got the removal. Price of Fame. Yeah, there was no way that Amara was going to survive. Because if I played any other creature, they couldn't afford Price of Fame, because Price of Fame costs 2 less to cast if it's targeting a legendary creature. So I couldn't even have played around that and tried to get them to kill something else. So definitely don't have to feel bad about that play at all. Even if they had Doomblade, just 1 in a black, instant speed, destroy a creature, it's still 100% right, I think, always to just slam down the Amara, because the potential, if our opponent doesn't just slam down a creature the next turn, is much higher than potential on any of our other cards if our opponent doesn't present a blocker. They grab an island off of District Guide, so we may actually be against some kind of 5-color deck, which is pretty neat. Let's just use the most of our mana, drop a Blade Instructor here. Vernati Shieldmate would just trade for District Guide, just like Blade Instructor will, so we can't attack into it super well either way. There's a Guild Summit, so yeah, they're at least a 4-color Guild deck. Guild Gate deck, I should say. Guild Summit's pretty nice. Whenever they play a gate, they get to draw a card. And when they play it, they can tap all their gates and draw a card for each gate they tapped. So, I think we just drop Parhelion Patrol. I could also just attack in and Assure to get District Guide off the board. I like just dropping down the Parhelion Patrol first, though. And then next turn we might be able to make that play, because then we're mentoring onto Parhelion Patrol when we do it as well, so we're getting even more value. Mentoring onto your mentor creatures is super nice. There's a Gateway Plaza, which is a gate, so they draw another card. This is a pretty scary matchup because they're going to have tons and tons and tons of value. They just draw cards just by playing lands, so they'll have all their removal and stuff just left over in their hand. Let's send in, buff up that patrol. I will still have a 3-power mentor creature on the board, even if I don't Assure here, so I might let it trade. I don't think so, though, because then if I Assure, Blade Instructor is now a 4-power mentor creature, which then mentors onto Parhelion for that to also be a 4-power mentor creature, and that seems like a big swing, and I can Assure and then drop District Guide here. The only problem, though, is then I can't assemble next turn and get 3 2/2s with Vigilance and try to just really race our opponent. But at the same time, having 2 4-power mentor creatures on the board is also really racing our opponent. So we just gotta decide which is a better race. I guess with a 3-power mentor creature, we're getting just as much mentor value over the course of the game by just mentoring onto 2/2s. Because then eventually it'll be like 3/3/3 Vigilances. And both of our other creatures in hand are also only 2 power, so 3-power mentors is plenty enough. Alright, drop our District Guide. Pick up a Selesnya Guild Gate, because we've got the untapped land for Assemble next turn anyway. Just get another land out of the deck, and drop a Vernati Shieldmate. Very worried about our opponent's full grip of cards. They got 5 left in hand still, after dropping this Whisper Agent and surveilling 1. There's a... what is that? Spinal Centipede that has been milled. And there's a Golgari Guildgate drawing a card. And here's a Watcher in the Mist. Pretty fantastic card. Might have to for sure assemble this turn then. Oh, Crawl Harpooner? Never mind. Just fight that. So Whisper Agent is going to trade with something this turn, so we're actually going to mentor onto District Guide first, so they might trade with our non-vigilant creature before our vigilant creature. Again, I could Assure to keep it on the board. If I do that, I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 power on the board, which would be 10 next turn. I guess I don't have the mana to make the 2/2s now. This is a rough game. That is kind of going all in. They take 5, go to 12. Next turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Still not quite lethal, so I'll just hold off on it. But I'm getting less convinced the longer I hold on to Assemble here. I feel like just holding on to Assemble might be slowing me down too much and costing me the game here. Whereas I could have had like a big momentum swing with Assure earlier if I just left the Blade Instructor out or something. Burglar Rat, sure. This might be 2 Burglar Rats though, which would be really rough. If it is, I guess I have to just throw a counter onto a Parhelion Patrol. Well, it looks like it's not. Alright, that's fine. So I've got the mana for my Assemble now. I think I just attack with both. They're going to Death Touch away my ground creature, though, which is not great. Yeah, I guess in that case, there's not really a point in sending in with the ground creature, even though I would be mentoring onto it. Oh, good lord. So I can save my 1 flyer and make it 4 power, so it kills them in only 3 turns, or I can make 3 ground creatures. Now that they have a Burglar Rat and a Death Toucher out, oh my god, this is so weird, but I think I keep the flyer, because if they don't have another removal spell, they're on a 2-turn clock now. They have 2 turns to kill this thing. Here's turn 1. Well, 2 turns to kill it or get a flyer. I feel like throwing out 3 2/2 Vigilant tokens at this late in the game, they'd be much more likely to have solutions to that. They literally just need like a 3/3 blocker, and that just holds it all at bay. Yeah, like Golgari Finebroker. That right there, that's just immediately enough to deal with every single one of my 2/2 Vigilant creatures. Chamber Sentry as well. So they're definitely planning to use Chamber Sentry's 2 counters to throw 2 damage at Parhelion Patrol, plus the 3 power that Watcher in the Mist has. So we'll send in with Parhelion Patrol. They're down to 4, so they're dead to 1 more swing from Parhelion Patrol. So if I draw into Prey Upon, I win. But that's 1 out of my 23 cards, so that's not super likely. So I don't need to block anything. I'm at 20 here, so let's just tap everything and make the biggest World Soul Colossus we can. Doesn't really matter because they've got a Death Toucher, but just for fun. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I can make it for 8. That's a thick one. So here comes a Watcher in the Mist, unless they drew a removal spell. And they'll just do that instead, because they know I'm incredibly tapped out, even my creatures. Oh, the problem is they actually need an untapped land to be able to kill my Parhelion Patrol with Chamber Sentry plus Watcher in the Mist. Yeah, and they can't do it. They didn't draw a basic, I guess? Wait a sec, what did they draw here if they didn't play Watcher in the Mist? Because now they're just dead on board. Oh no. They did draw a removal spell? They did. Capture Sphere. Rough. Real rough. And their 2 little freaking hired poisoners means this game is now going to take another year. Because I just don't have attacks into that. Here's a Siege Worm. So my opponent and myself are going to stare at each other until they draw a million cards off of Guild Summit. And just overwhelm me with card advantage, I guess. Alright, Shieldmate wasn't really affecting this game in any way, so it's fine. They already had a 3/4 blocker for it. Those stupid hired poisoners, I just can't do anything here. If I attack with Siege Worm, they can block with their 3/4 and a 4/4, stop all of the trample damage, and only lose a 4/4. And if I attack with World Soul, they just trump with a 1/1 Death Touch. This is going to be rough. Opponent has 17 cards in their library. They've got well enough time to just kill me with a Watcher in the Mist in the sky. So they don't even need to draw into a way to win the game. They've already got it. Just play Watcher in the Mist and sit here. We really need to draw into something. But I don't even know what I have at this point. Their field is just too wide. And they do have the 5 colors of mana to start doing crazy stuff with Chamber Sentry. If I play Healer's Hawk, they could just send 2 damage at it with Chamber Sentry. Then it goes to their turn, they spend 5 colors, bring it back to their hand, recast it. Yeah, Chamber Sentry's just going to machine gun away any of my ways to get back into this game, but I don't have any more copies of Assure Assemble or anything, so may as well. Holding the Healer's Hawk isn't going to do anything. I have to hope that they just punt, really. They just removed 1. That's really weird to me. They've only got 1 card in hand. I don't know what that could possibly be, where they wouldn't want to just recast Chamber Sentry with more counters this turn. No, this is gonna hurt. This is gonna be a long, drawn-out loss here, but I'm gonna stick around till the end, just to make sure I couldn't do anything here, but it seems pretty unlikely. As always, if you're ever in a position like this, or if I'm ever in a position like this when you're watching the video and you're like, yeah, this is just a loss, I always will leave the timestamps in the description below for each game, so if you want to skip to the next game, you can go right on ahead. I highly doubt I'm winning this one, so you're probably not missing much here, but I am going to stick around to the end. We'll see what we can do here. But I just don't see an out. And I believe it should put the little lines in the video that'll show where each game starts and ends. Prey Upon's like a million turns too late. I guess I get to kill the Watcher at least and not take flying damage anymore. Severed Strands does gain them 4 life as well, so now they're really far from death. At 8. We've got the statue for our 8/8 as well. Just plenty of removal over there. They're down to 12 cards in their library, but they're hitting me for 3 flying a turn. I actually have no blockers now, so I'm dead in 2 turns. Playing it really safe. They're definitely playing around the 1 red mana, really big haste creature that also can't be blocked by Crawl Swarm, I guess. I'm not gonna lie, I've been in positions like my opponents before and I have played even safer. I'm just like, I don't know, man. What could they have? Alright, that was a brutal one. That was a brutal one. I think I gave way too much emphasis towards Assure over Assemble. I think our closest route to victory would have been if I just Assured immediately, probably, on that Blade Instructor and just tried to stay as aggressive as possible. However, at the same time, still having the Assure as late in the game as I did was what allowed me to keep my flyer out for so long, to chip away at them till they were only at 4. So even then, I'm not 100% certain that holding Assure Assemble was bad. I just think that I was holding it for the wrong reasons. I don't think, especially with how that game ended, with just the dramatic amount of creatures they had on board, I do not think that Assemble was going to do anything in that game. 2/2 little Vigilant Knights weren't going to change things. Unexplained disappearance on my fresh-faced recruit. Toss that back in my hand and Surveil 1. We are against a Dimir deck. So we're at 2 wins and 2 losses now, by the way. I like to try to state that every round, but sometimes I forget. They surveil the card, leave it on top, into a swamp, followed by Dimir Locket. Ooh, Nullhide Ferox if I hit a land. Nullhide Ferox makes me want a Rock Charger on the board, but I need to hit a land to play it, so I probably just go with my biggest creature here to put some pressure on, kind of force them to try to make a little chump blocker. The odds of me drawing like literally a forest, not even just a land, but a forest specifically, is pretty low. So yeah, we didn't draw the forest, so no Nullhide Ferox here, but I can drop a Rock Charger. Don't think I want to send in onto the Veiled Shade here. I could, and then I could use a Sure Assemble, but then I'm not casting anything else this turn. Kind of want to just drop a Rock Charger and pass, so I could send in with the Charger and the Blade Instructor next turn. Not really looking to trade my Mentor into their Veiled Shade. They do have a Watcher in the Mist, unfortunately. I'm still going to send in with both, because if they block Rock Charger, it's going to be a 2/4, so it'll survive, and if they block Blade Instructor, then I can Assure and kill their Watcher in the Mist and make my Blade Instructor a 4/2, which seems pretty great. Just straight up value. Alright, District Guide would hit my land for Nullhide Ferox. This is actually an interesting choice here. If I want to get the combat in, or if I want to make sure I can hit a Ferox next turn, which is pretty big. I think I just get aggressive, send the combat in. They go for the block, we'll Assure it. Which means Blade Instructor now gets to, if it survives through the turn here, gets to Mentor Rock Charger up into a 3/5 and then up into a 4/6. I see a glorious future for these two if there's no Dead Weight or Deadly Visit here. The best of pals, Blade Instructor and Rock Charger. Oh yes, and it's going to happen because they just drop a Dimir Spybug. Still stuck on 3 mana here, so we're definitely going to District Guide, but we're absolutely getting in there, staying aggressive, especially when they've got stuff like Notion Rain damaging them to get value. Bam, down to 9, and here is my District Guide. Definitely don't want to play Centaur Peacemaker this game. We're the aggro here. I'm going to grab a Guild Gate because I haven't played a land this turn, so we'll play it tapped. And there is a Watcher in the Mist from our opponent, but now our Blade Instructor is a 4/2, our Rock Charger will be a 4/6. Either of those will kill the Watcher in the Mist on a block. So we absolutely still just get in. Blade Instructor trades for Spybug or Watcher, whichever one they want. And then the other one they just chump or take 4. Rock Charger's just too big now. The extra +1/+1 counter on the Blade Instructor was huge here. Alright, they take the 4, go down to 5, leaving a Dimir Spybug on their board. I don't have... My hand is literally entirely creatures, so I think we just play Ferox. We don't need Vigilance. I could play a Peacemaker and a Hunted Witness, but that seems pointless. Just play a Ferox. Just play a 6/6. Set it in with flying with a Rock Charger, and that will be a huge threat. If they have any removal, obviously they'll throw it at that Rock Charger, and then chump block with Past Wall Adept or Veiled Shade on the Nullhide Ferox. We got to live the dream here. Not only do we have Rock Charger plus Nullhide Ferox, which was what I was mentioning the first time I picked a Rock Charger, we have Rock Charger as a 4/6 thanks to our Blade Instructors, which is why I took the Blade Instructors as well. Pretty insane. Not just Rock Charger plus Nullhide Ferox, we have a 4/6 Rock Charger plus Nullhide Ferox. How about that, opponent? Unexplained disappearance on the Rock Charger. Well, it's too late. Nullhide Ferox already has the flying trigger on the stack, so they will have to chump with Spybug. Which is pretty good for me, that they missed the opportunity to play that earlier. You would have to play it when I went to combat. Yeah, they just scoop it up right there. Kind of unfortunate for our opponent. That is one of those things that is kind of due to playing on a digital client versus playing in person. But I guess in a tournament setting, like, it's debatable. You would have to unexplained disappearance on my my wingmate rock, or whatever it's called, my rock charger, before I go to my declare attacks step. So I would have to say move to combat, and your response to me moving to combat has to be, okay, unexplained disappearance rock charger. Because even in a paper magic setting, if I'm now in the declare attacker step, once I am in the declare attacker step, I get to declare all my attackers, and the second I declare my attackers, all of my triggers go on the stack, including Rock Charger's ability, and the second Rock Charger's ability goes on the stack, it doesn't matter what you do to Rock Charger, that ability is going to resolve. So they may have just clicked OK one too many times, or they may not have realized how the declare attacker step with triggers works. We might never know, but not the coolest way to win either way. But I think I was in a good position either way. Because even if they did that, they'd just have to chump block with some ground creature. Then I would probably honestly just play my 4/4 Vigilance. Then they'd have to spend 2 additional mana and throw a removal spell at the Nullhide Ferox. Then my 4/4 Vigilance gets there and makes them chump something. Then I have another 4/4 Vigilance. I had plenty of stuff still going on there. So let's go for Rock Charger with Amara here. So I can try to spit out those tokens very frequently. We are against another Dimir deck. Our opponent has started with a Darkblade Agent, which gets me very worried. That card can give you a ton of value throughout the game. Every time they surveil, it gets Death Touch and the ability to draw a card whenever it does combat damage to a player. So if it attacks, we're obviously not going to block, because they could give it Death Touch at instant speed. But the problem with not blocking here is now they can just draw a card if they surveil. Unexplained disappearance. Instant speed surveil means they draw a card. And they mill the land. So Darkblade Agent is a quite nice card. Don't have another 2-mana card here, so I can't play Amara and something else. I could play the Rosemane Centaur if I tap Rock Charger. I really want to deal with Darkblade Agent, so I want to see if I can prey upon it. They could have more instant speed shenanigans, but I'm hoping not. Alright, nice. Just get that out of the way, hoping for 1. The problem is Prey Upon's the only removal spell in my deck, but I'm against a Dimir deck, so I'm hoping I won't need it. Especially because I'm about to have a 4/4 and a 5/5 trample and stuff. So, yeah, if they just play stuff like Dowser of Lights, I definitely don't need removal for that. That is fine by me. Deadly Visit on the Rock Charger, so I can't give flying anymore. That means no attacks this turn, but I'll definitely drop a Siege Worm instead. I can actually do a really cool combo where I drop Amara and then Convoke with Amara to play Siege Worm, which gives me the 1/1 for tapping her. Which is really cool. Bam. Get a nice little soldier out, too. This, of course, is pretty bad if my opponent has a board wipe, but the only board wipe in Guilds of Ravnica is Ritual of Soot. At least the only board wipe in Dimir in Guilds of Ravnica is Ritual of Soot, which only destroys the converted mana cost 3 or less creatures. So it won't kill my Siege Worm, won't kill a lot of my scary stuff. If I attack with everybody here, they block Rosemain Centaur and kill it. They take 3, 4, 5, 10, 11. Take 11, I get another 1/1 token. They'd be at 8. They'd be at 8, and then I'd have 3, 5, 8, 9, 10 more on the field. I think I just attack with Siege Worm. Because I also don't know what instant speed nonsense they could have. Like, if they have Whisper Agent, then I think the all attack is really bad here. Okay, Dispersal. Super glad I did not play that Plains. That would have been awful. But they could have Disinformation Campaign to have me discard Siege Worm as well. Actually, I couldn't have played the Plains. I played a Guildgate this turn, so I probably would have just ran out the land and gotten absolutely hosed by Dispersal there, if I had the opportunity to do so. I'm going to turn off Auto Tap, because Auto Tap might just automatically spend lands here when I definitely want to tap Amara. And now I'll just auto pay the rest. Turn off the full control. Do they have... Oh, Disinformation, or Devious Cover-Up. I get the names mixed up in Dimir all the time. That's really bad for me. They get to put their 4 best cards from their graveyard back into their deck, so they're much less likely to draw lands than I am, and they're much more likely to draw those 4 fantastic cards. And also, I don't get my Siege Worm, which is sad too. I think probably Prey Uponing the Nightblade Agent was a little too aggro, because if I just held on to my 3/3, I could just block it. Whereas now, if I had Prey Upon with my Siege Worm out, I could Prey Upon the Dowser of Lights. But even then, if I tried to do that, they could Dispersal in response, and I'd probably still just get hosed. So, I think I'm just getting Dimir shenanigans either way. Opponent is surveilling 2, toss a couple lands in the grave. Setting up their draws. And they draw another land anyway, I guess. Feels bad. Veiled Shade coming in hot. They have enough mana to give it +1/+1 4 times. So that's basically a 6/6. Yeah, I'm at 22. I'm just not going to block it. If they tap out here, I might just send the all-in. They leave 4 mana up. What, another Devious Cover-Up? Is this one of those 50 Devious Cover-Up decks? If I attack with everybody... Dowser of Lights blocks Centaur, obviously. But then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Potentially get 9 in. They could be saving up the mana to use Guildmage's ability instead of Devious Cover-Up. I gotta try to get in there, and they've got 1 less blocker here than they'll have like any other turn. Let's send in. Oh, they're holding up a Whisper Agent. That's really bad. Super bad. So Whisper Agent trades for Peacemaker, Guildmage trades for Amara, Dowser of Lights eats my 4/4, and they only take 4. Kind of just lose then. Unless they really want to hold on to the Guildmage. Alright. That went way better than I think it could have. I think I'm still in this game if I still have my Rosemain Centaur. Because now they're down to 6. They only have 3 blockers. So they go block, 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 take 1, 2, 3, 4. They take 4 because I can mentor onto the one of the 1/1s. And they block Centaur there. They lose those 2 creatures. Oh my god, I'm really still in this game if they didn't draw well here. I guess they only lose one of their creatures because Veiled Shade. So I lose Instructor and Centaur. They don't even trade with the thing. And they lose the Guild Mage, taking 4. And they have 2 blockers for my 3 creatures. And they're at 2 life. So then they go to 1. Oh, this sucks. Yeah, Dowser goes there. Veiled Shade goes there. Those creatures survive, period. And I guess Guildmage could even block just a 1/1 token, and then they do still have 3 blockers, and I only have 3 creatures left on the board, 2 2/2s and a 1/1. Yeah, and then their blocks set up well next turn, because then they block the 2/2s with the 4/5 and the Veiled Shade, and then the 1/1 with the Guildmage. So they have a block here where they go to 1 and then have good blocks. I've got 2 cards in hand, so it all really depends on how scared they are. If I slam all attack here, I'm literally just hoping that they misplay, so I feel like I have to kind of just not. But at the same time, I'm against a Dimir deck that's already surveilled away 5 lands. They have 8 lands on board. They're 13 lands out of their deck. They only have probably 4 lands left in those 22 cards. My opponent is going to draw better than me, period. They also have Surveil, so the longer this game goes on, the less likely I am to win. This feels dumb, because if my opponent blocks well, I'm in a world of hurt here. But if I don't send in the attack, I'm just not going to win this game, period. And since they top decked into Whisper Agent, I sorely lose no matter what now. Because with the 4 creatures to block, this attack is horrible. Because they also, yeah, now they're going to surveil 2 more cards when they play the Guildmage. They even surveil the land off already. Unfortunate way to end it, but I think this is the best play that we have at our disposal here. Or that we had at our disposal here when we didn't know that they had a Whisper Agent in hand. They are down to 3. But it is not going to be enough. And I guess they had to spend the mana to save the Veiled Shade there, so at least they didn't get to surveil again with the Guildmage's ability. Drew a Dowser of Lights anyway. So this was a pretty rough game overall. Looking back on it, I think the only thing that I would say is like objectively a mistake would have been, well, the only thing I can see, because obviously I'm not a super genius. Wow, I actually drew the only card that I might be able to win with if they don't immediately draw an answer. I just send in with Rock Charger and District Guide. If I win this game, I'm actually going to be really disappointed because I don't think I earned this win. I think my opponent's deck is really good, and they stabilized incredibly well. It's always really cool to see when somebody stabilizes on like 3 life, even if it does really hurt when you're that player's opponent. Yeah, and they're surveilling in the upkeep before they draw a card, playing really well here too. So I actually kind of hope they draw a Deadly Visit and win this game for that reason. Uh-oh. Why did I say anything? Why did I say anything? Because now they surveilled one of their cards to the top. Oh, a Notion Rain? They're trying to draw Deadweight then. For 1 mana, or Unexplained Disappearance for 2 mana. Those to the bottom, draw 2, take 2. They're at 1 now. What is this? Did they get there? The fact that they haven't done anything yet makes me feel like they didn't get there. They send in the single 4/5. I don't think I can block here. I'm just going to not block. I'm going to leave as many creatures out as possible. That attack could have been them just like, well, if they block with Rock Charger... Yeah, it looks like that's what it was. And there's Discovery. How did... Oh my god. I'll be totally honest, I didn't deserve this win. I didn't deserve this win. So yeah, looking back on the game, the only thing that I can remember personally that I think I would definitely chalk up to a mistake at this point would have been playing that Prey Upon so early on that Nightblade agent. But other than that... The Flunge obviously looked really bad. Flunge is in like they're just send in an attack. But I feel I explained my case there pretty well for why I was doing that. And it worked out even though they had the the Whisper agent. So we did make it to 4 wins. So that's the pretty much breaking even at that point. So I'm very happy about that. Because 4 wins, we got 80 gems during the drafting process, so we're at 1,480 gems. I only need to get 20 more gems to get the full 1,500 that it costs to play this. And I'm getting 3 booster packs, and I pretty much already own the set, so that's just guaranteed. So really nice run with the Selesnya deck. The Rock Charger is the MVP. Rock Charger for my favorite card in the set now. Rock Charger was the MVP of our last Boros deck, if you remember that. Check out the last draft if you haven't seen it. Rock Charger was ridiculous. And Rock Charger's definitely putting in work here. And now I'm against the number 22 Mythic in the world. Wow, I regret everything. I wish that the Mirror opponent just beat me already, because this is terrifying. I've never hit Mythic in my life, and here is... the 22nd best limited player in the world right now. Really cool. Really cool. I'm going to start off with District Guide so that I can play Nullhide Ferox next turn. And maybe I can just cheese a Mythic player out of the game here with a Mythic rare. Ironically enough. That's the plan. They are on Dimir. They would. They would. As a Mythic player, you would just draft Dimir every time. I kid. Alright, so Pass Wall Adept is out. 1/3 blocker holds down the fort pretty well, and they drop a deadweight on the District Guide to slow me down. Here's Johnny. Let's see what they got. 6 cards in hand with 3 mana untapped currently. They are a Mythic player though, so yeah, I was going to say, you could definitely expect them to think and deliberate on all their plays, so they very well could have a 4th land in hand, and there it is. Chemister's Insight is the play this turn, so they don't immediately have an answer. So we get to send in with Nullhide Ferox. Get 6 damage in here, or force a chump block. We get in the 6. If I play Blade Instructor, I get to mentor onto Hunted Witness and attack with both of those, but Blade Instructor does just trade with Pass Wall. I think we drop Parhelion Patrol here. If they don't kill Nullhide Ferox this turn, which I don't think it's super likely they'll be able to, because it costs 2 mana to make it not have hexproof. If I draw an untapped land, I'm really going to want to play Blade Instructor and hold up a Sure Assemble. I think I discard Centaur Peacemaker here, because they're at 12 and I'm definitely on the aggressive. Don't want to give them any life. Another Burglar Rat. Now I think I discard Siege Worm. The problem is that's 2 1/1 chump blockers for our Nullhide Ferox, which is pretty massive. That gives them some time for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna be attacking with Nullhide Ferox every turn, so Siege Worm I guess I'm only 1 mana away from Siege Worm if I draw a basic. I really like that I can play Blade Instructor and hold up Assure, though, if I draw a basic land. Obviously, I can't cast Assure unless I pay the 2 mana for Ferox, but I don't need to pay the 2 mana for Ferox to save Ferox with Assure, because then its abilities will already be shut off. That's the only way they're going to kill it, unless they have Death Touch, is if they get rid of its Hexproof. So let's send him with everybody. Buff the Witness up to a 2/2. They can block with a Burglar Rat and Pass Wall Adept on the Witness to turn it into a 1/1 lifelinker, or just block with Pass Wall to hold it off. Alright. Opponent's down to 10 now. I can't hold Assure up to save Parhelion Patrol, which sucks a little bit, but can definitely save Ferox with it if they shut off Ferox's ability to kill it. Watcher in the Mist. Okay. Surveil 2, get a nice 3/4 flyer out there. Holds off the Parhelion Patrol. Now that they're tapped out, I can actually spend the 4 mana to turn off Nullhide Ferox's ability and cast an Assure, if I want to do that. But even casting an Assure, my Parhelion Patrol won't be large enough to kill their Watcher. So I think I just send in with Nullhide Ferox and cast a Siege Worm, maybe? Because now the only way I hold up Assure is if I don't play anything this turn, and I don't think that can be right here. So send in the Ferox. Getting rid of another 1/1. Here's Siege Worm. They probably have removal for Siege Worm because they probably already have removal in hand. It's just too expensive to use on Ferox right now. I'd expect most pretty good Dimir decks to have a Deadly Visit in hand by now, and we can assume, as our opponent is a mythic, that they have a good Dimir deck that they have drafted very well. Oh my god, recasting the Chemister's Insight? Oh, Hired Poisoner there, though. Well, I've got the mana to Assure here. If I attack with everybody, Hired Poisoner goes to Nullhide Ferox, and I Assure it. Watcher in the Mist goes here. Pass Wall Adept goes here. They take 7. I think I just slam attack with everybody. Yeah, they're going to take 7 here. Make it 8 if I Assure. It's not going to be lethal. I think I saved the Ferox for sure. Now they're down to 3. Oh, they've got Connive Connacht, return one of my creatures to their field to chump block here. Because they're looking at my graveyard. Dimir Locket is the play. And a Spinal Centipede comes out. So Centipede blocks Ferox. Now they get to put a +1/+1 counter on something. Rock Charger is going to be huge. I think I got to play Rock Charger over Blade Instructor for sure. What kind of double blocks could they have here? They double block Siege Worm with a 3/4 and a 3/2, and I only get to kill one of them. And then they chump block Ferox with the 1/3. Hunted Witness is going to turn into a 1/1 token when it dies, so I think I attack with everybody so that if they double block, they go to 1. Yeah, if they go for a double block here, they have to go to 1. Awesome. Very glad I sent in Hunted Witness then. Because, yeah, I assume that a double block's coming in here. I'm going to kill Watcher of the Mist over the Spinal Centipede. Get rid of the Flyer. That way, Rock Charger is incredibly lethal if they don't deal with it. And they're down to 1 life. And I'll have 3 creatures on the board, one of which is flying and gives another creature flying. I'm still sweating. Our opponent's got a full grip of something for sure. There's a Dowser of Lights, not gonna do it. 2 mana left. Wall of Mist, not gonna do it. Rock Charger gets the game. That's another Mythic we've beaten. I feel like we have a really good record against Mythics. I think they just get really unlucky against us, and it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. The last time I played against a Mythic player, they were also like top 100 Mythic or something. And they drew like 3 lands all game, and they were all 1 color. It was sad. Oh. And that time we played against the Mythic, but of course, the one time we play against the Mythic, we happen to have our Mythic rare busted hexproof monster. So, feels bad to be them there, but does it feel good? It feels really cool to beat a Mythic player. I'm not gonna lie. So, 5 wins, 1,600 gems. We got good value coming out of this now. Even if we immediately lose this next round. We're coming off a really big high after that last game. I'm not even sure I played 100% correctly. You know, I'm not the greatest player ever. I always second guessed all my plays and go back on them, and I'm like, I don't know what's the right play at any point here, but we definitely played well enough with the cards we were dealt, so I'll absolutely take it. But no, there were several decisions there with like what creature I want to play. Do I want to hold up Assure? That they're already difficult and interesting decisions, but especially when you're against like a Mythic, you feel real self-conscious. So I mulliganed that last hand because we had 2 7-mana Siege Worms and an XX, which is also just a really expensive card. And I can keep this one. I've got Crawl Harpooner, Prey Upon, Peacemaker on turn 3. We've got cheap stuff if I just get rid of World Soul Colossus here. Playing against somebody else who is green. Let's drop our forest and pass the turn. Looks like another Selesnya deck. I feel like we played against a lot of Selesnya. They like to really match us up. So, I could hold off on Crawl Harpooner if I'm wanting to really fight a flyer, but I think it's important to commit to the board and try to get off to the races with our opponent here. Not just going to sit here and do nothing. Just in case they play a Healer's Hawk later or something. Ledev Champion. Very nice card. Whenever it attacks, they can tap any number of untapped creatures, give it +1/+1 for each creature they tapped, and more importantly in the late game, for 5 mana they can spit out 1/1s with the lifelink with that. I could Prey Upon. Don't want to do that. I'll offer the trade. Alright, we'll play a Centaur Peacemaker, and now the Centaur can Prey Upon Ledev Champion and survive that fight, which is nice. Problem is, I do have 2 4-mana creatures to play next turn, so I don't know how soon I'll be wanting to do that. It all depends on what they play here. So they're choosing their attacks here, which is kind of weird with the Ledev Champion. Your trigger goes on the stack, and it's like, what do you want to tap, or all that stuff. So you might be getting a little confused here by the all that stuff. Looks like they choose not to attack in order to drop down a Rosemane Centaur. Now that we've drawn Assure Assemble, we're definitely going to play a land and just slam in. We'll Assure if they block. Okay. I will eat that Rosemane Centaur for dinner. Thank you very much. Delicious. For 1 white mana, they could have a +2/+2 pump spell, which would save the Centaur, but my creature still survives. Then I can throw a Prey Upon at it as well. This is the only time I could do that and still have Peacemaker survive because it's indestructible. If I do this later, I would be trading my 4/4 for their 4/4, so I guess we will have to do that. The problem is then I don't have Prey Upon for Ledev Champion anymore, which kind of sucks. I think we still want to just get rid of their 4/4 though. We're still pretty far from having us in a position where we have enough mana that Ledev's Champion's ability is going to really matter. It's 5 mana ability. That doesn't really matter till both players just have like 7 lands on board and we're both just top decking lands doing nothing. And that does not seem like how this game's going so far. So far, we're just really bashing each other in. So, with all their creatures being 2 power, I think we want to play Inspiring Unicorn before Parhelion Patrol. But I don't want to attack with Crawl Harpooner because I don't really want to offer the trade with the Scout. And if I attack with it alongside an Inspiring Unicorn, it will be attacking with 3 toughness. In which case it will attack in definitely better. They'll have to double block anything they want to kill on the next block step. However, if they don't play anything this turn, they can make a 1/1 token with Ledev Champion's ability and double block with a real creature and a token, which is a lot better than having to double block with 2 of their creatures that are already on board. The little 1/1 tokens are much less valuable than anything they have right now. But there's a Siege Worm. Hey, there's a Rock Charger. That's a really good draw. However, yet again, I would love to get Parhelion Patrol out too to mentor onto the Rock Charger, but I think we just play the Charger first. At least Siege Worm doesn't attack in particularly well, thanks to our 4/4 Peacemaker. We can block with that and either of our 2 toughness creatures, and they can only kill 1 thing unless they have a pump spell in hand. If they have a pump spell in hand, we already saw a Take Heart, so I could block with the Unicorn as well. If I send in... What's my best attack in the sky? Probably Unicorn and Charger. So if they take Heart, they've got 7 damage to deal, so they can kill 2 of the things, but they can't kill 3 of them. So I guess I can still like Rock Charger, Crawl Harpooner attack or something. I think it's okay to throw the Unicorn into this, just to play around Take Heart. Because if they don't have anything, they're just going to kill Peacemaker and that's it. Regardless. If they have a Sure Strike splashed in off of the Gateway Plaza, that would be absolutely horrible. But the odds of that seem real low. I guess, yeah, it does open up to allowing them to kill my 2 toughness creatures instead. That's fine too. They just had a Blade Instructor in hand. Well, that hurts. I'm at 18. They'll crack back for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I only hit for 5 here, put them to 9. I hit them for 5, put them to 9. Then I send in with Blade Instructor and Rock Charger. And that is 5 damage again. Put him to 4. Don't think I can attack super duper well here. I think I just attack with the Charger. Hold back my 4/4 to block Blade Instructor. If I play Parhelion Patrol, I'm actually attacking in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 next turn. So that still wouldn't be lethal if I sent in with both this turn. Okay, just making sure. I feel like I might have punted there. Should have done that math before the attack for sure. If attacking with Rock Charger and Centaur Peacemaker led to a lethal attack off Parhelion Patrol next turn, I definitely should have attacked with both. Alright, so they're just going to send in Ledev Champion. I think we're in a real good position here. They don't have anything that can block flyers. They only have Skyline Scout, which can attack as a flyer. We're just going to take all this damage, however much it is. Because I don't have any good blocks here for sure. We want to keep Blade Instructor for Rock Charger. So we're going to attack in for 5 this turn, and then next turn we definitely have a lethal attack. Because Parhelion Patrol is already flying. Rock Charger can give our 4/4 flying. Yeah, so we hit for 5, they're down to 8. Next turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Either one of those. Adds up to lethal. So they gotta draw a reach creature. If they spit out a life-linking token, they're actually 1 away from dead here. If they attack with that. Which I have to assume they will. They can probably do math as well. Don't know what's in their hand. They have whatever they top deck this turn. They do send in with the all attack here. They probably Blade Instructor onto the lifelinker, I'd say. This is going to be a close game either way it goes. So I think we try to kill the Dev Champion and the Blade Instructor, and we take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If they have a pump spell, we were going to lose either way. Because they could like pump spell for lethal if we didn't do these blocks. Okay, I feel really good about our position now, actually, especially drawing Rosemane Centaur, because now I can just attack with my Vigilant creature, and then I still just have lethal next turn to play it really safe. They're at 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I can't kill them this turn, so I just play Rosemane Centaur. If I attack with this, how safe is that to leave just 2 blockers up? I guess I leave 3 because of Vigilance. So this blocks that. That blocks that, this blocks that, I take 2? That's still pretty safe. And this leads me to definitely lethal next turn. And we'll put the counter on the one that can block. So yeah, this is still definitely lethal this turn, even if they gain the 3 life here. Okay, so we gotta block that with the flyer, block that with a 4/4, block that with a 4/4, take 2. Looks like we may have got there. Beast Whisperer. Not the best time to draw Beast Whisperer for our opponent, unfortunately. Card is very good when you draw it early in the game and then cast all your creatures later, but as we see here, it's a very sad top deck in the late game. Feels pretty bad. So we're at 6 wins and 2 losses. That's more than I was expecting. Kind of a 4-3, pretty average run for this deck. It is far from the best Selesnya deck I've ever drafted. It's obviously got the big bomby Nullhide Ferox. It's got multiple Rock Chargers, which is always a great sign. But we are really lacking in removal. But yeah, it's really nice that all the other aspects of our deck are really lifting us up from that. The amount of Rock Chargers we have, alongside the amount of Rosemane Centaurs. I think Rock Charger, Rosemane Centaurs, those are premium, pretty great cards. Siege Worm as well. The Blade Instructors to work alongside the Rock Chargers. The Parhelion Patrol working with the Rock Chargers. If there's anything to be gathered here, it's rockcharger.exe. Absolutely love that card now. I thought it was pretty good when I started drafting the set again, back on New Year's. But now that I've gotten a few drafts out of it, I'm going to pick Rock Chargers really highly. It's just great in Boros with Mentor, and it's great in Selesnya with your beefy creatures. Alright, so we got a turn 2 Amara here. Will I ever get to do anything super cool with Amara? Maybe. Our opponent hasn't played a creature quite yet. Where we got Amara? Can we spit out some 1/1s before they make a blocker? No. We're going to get Unexplained Disappearance again. We are against another Dimir deck here. I do expect to play against Dimir quite often because it is pretty much the best guild in the set. So playing against a Dimir deck for like the 3rd time in this draft is not that surprising. I was definitely more surprised by like the 2nd or 3rd Selesnya deck that we played against. I'm like, whoa, playing against a lot of Selesnya today. Interesting. I'm actually going to slam down a Centaur Peacemaker here so that they can't just get in with Darkblade Agent here. If they send in with Darkblade Agent, I'm taking the trade, period. I don't care if they give it Death Touch. It's way more important than my 3/3 Peacemaker. Disinformation Campaign. Ooh, we're about to have a bad time. So every time they surveil, this is going to go back to their hand so they can recast it again later to draw another card and make us discard another card. So we need to really just dump out our hand here as fast as possible or it's all going to go away. So I can play Unicorn, I can play Harpooner and Amara. Luckily I do have a forest to discard to Disinformation Campaign in the future. I'm probably just going to hold on to this as long as possible. It's my best play here. Unicorn does allow me to attack in with Peacemaker and Unicorn, send in with a 4/4 and a 3/3. But I kind of like spreading my board wide here. But Crawl Harpooner is quite good against Dimir because it can fight their stupid 3/4 flyer and stuff. So that makes me kind of not want to just drop down Crawl Harpooner this turn. Yeah, I think I'm cool to go Unicorn first for that reason. Because there are valid reasons to hold on to the Crawl Harpooner. Not going to attack with the Peacemaker again because I don't want them drawing cards off this Darkblade Agent. There's a Thoughtbound Phantasm as well. Our opponent's deck is very Surveil synergistic. So now attacking would be potentially pushing in 7 damage. However, attacking with a 4/4 into a 2/3 and a 2/2 means I only kill one of them. And I would probably kill the Darkblade Agent in that instance. I don't love attacking, but I also don't love just sitting here. I mean, I suppose it's basically the same thing as if I had traded earlier. So it's probably okay to trade Peacemaker for just their 2/3. That was literally the plan when I cast Peacemaker in the first place. Biggest problem with this is if they surveil next turn, they've got a really big turn because my Parhelion Patrol's not going to be able to block the agent well. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Do I get to kill it? Oh, Dazzling Lights. Definitely hurts. But at least we're getting rid of one of their surveil cards during my turn, so they don't get to draw a card off the Darkblade Agent off of this surveil. Not that bad. I think I will just play Parhelion Patrol past the turn. We know they're going to recast Disinformation Campaign, so we're going to keep these lands, discard one there. Ooh, looks like they're not going to. They're going to lose a little bit of value off Disinformation Campaign, but they can get that value back by just drawing a card off Darkblade Agent instead of Disinformation Campaign. No blocks. Crawl Harpooner is going to harpoon that Watcher in the Mist. So that definitely worked out. So now I can actually play my whole hand if I play a Plains, so I'm definitely going to do that. And then they can Disinformation Campaign us all they want. It's all lands from now on, basically. Anything we draw, we're going to cast the second we draw it. Alright, get in there, Parhelion Patrol. What else do we got? What else you got, opponent? Disinformation Campaign. Hello. Goodbye, Forest. And Barrier Bones. Pick it back up. So our opponent is leaving the value dream with Disinformation Campaign. They're just going to draw millions and millions of cards all game. They've also got a Thoughtbound Phantasm that is active for attacking. However, I'm not really worried about that attacking. They can attack with it all they want. I can potentially get just 1/1 tokens if they do that. 100% taking a trade with Centaur Peacemaker here. As I said before, that was the plan from the start. And if they Dazzling Lights here, they're losing out on another card draw from both Disinformation Campaign and Darkblade Agent potentially. So I'll absolutely trade Peacemaker for the Dazzling Lights as well. Siege Worm is a good draw. I can cast that tapping Amara and Parhelion Patrol. So we'll send in with the Flyers and put a counter on Healer's Hawk. I don't love our chances this game just because our opponent has drawn so many cards. And the biggest way that we have to potentially win this game because of how big Thoughtbound Phantasm is getting is by getting there with our Flyers, and that's not very likely against a blue deck, especially Dimir. I'm very surprised with the Deadly Visit on the Siege Worm. That makes me feel like they definitely have a lot of Watcher in the Mist kind of Flyers in their deck. Not going to take the chump block there. I feel like I need the chump blockers for Thoughtbound Phantasm. I'm really surprised Thoughtbound Phantasm didn't get in there, though. But I suppose it holds off Amara, so I can't get another token with Amara, but even if they sent in with Thoughtbound Phantasm, that's all I'd get out of her, because they can block with Barrier of Bones. So they're down to 10 now. There's a City Watch Sphinx. That may just end things for us. The only removal in our deck is Prey Upon. We can't even Prey Upon that until we draw another Rosemane Centaur or Siege Worm or something. I suppose Crawl Harpooner's removal for that as well, but we already used that, obviously. Now let's go ahead and get well, I can hold off on the chump blocks until it's as valuable as possible. I'm sure that Thoughtbound Phantasm is going to get bigger and bigger. Definitely don't have attacks into the City Watch Sphinx, so we're just going to start dying to the Phantasm here. Uh-oh. Phantasm number 2! I wonder how long it'll take for that Phantasm to be able to attack as well. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the chump block this turn, because the other thing we have to think about is Unexplained Disappearance. Unexplained Disappearance just like kills a token and they surveil, so if they ever draw that, they're just going to cast it immediately because they've got so many surveil triggers to do. Not immediately, but, you know, during the turn they cast it at some point, most likely during combat. The only way I kill this Darkblade Agent is with a double block, and if I double block and they have an instant speed surveil trick, I'm really hosed, especially if it's another Dazzling Lights. If it's another Dazzling Lights, they're just Dazzling Lights.deck. They can make one of my creatures only like 0 power. I'm gonna triple block so I can still kill it if they have Dazzling Lights. If they have Unexplained Disappearance, though, I just lose all my creatures here, basically. But I already don't really need the Flyers because City Watch Sphinx holds them off, and I can't do anything there yet. Don't really feel like I got outplayed there or anything. I was definitely playing and like understanding that that was a threat that could happen there, but I'm just not going to win this game if they have the Unexplained Disappearance. If they had it and I didn't block, they're just drawing another card off of Disinformation Campaign and another card off of Nightblade Agent. If they have it and I do block, I'm also getting absolutely hosed. So we're playing... I played the way that was the best if they didn't have Unexplained Disappearance, because either route where they do have Unexplained Disappearance is a route where I lose the game no matter what I do. So... sad way to end it. We're going to get demolished by the beautiful Surveil Dimir build. This is a very nice... very well-drafted deck. They had 2 Disinformation Campaign, too? They milled a second one? I didn't even notice that. Ridiculous deck there. But we got the 6-win run out of the Selesnya deck. Not bad at all. Plenty of value and plenty of gems out of that. So, as always at the end here, we're going to crack open these packs. Not the most exciting with an old set like this, because I already basically have all the cards, but we can get some more gems. And at the end here, I would like to thank you all very much for watching this draft. I get a lot of mythic wildcards from the set. I don't know if that's because I already collected it, or that just kind of happens. I don't know. But yeah, as always, at the end of the video, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you want to see more Magic Arena content, primarily drafts, stick around on the channel for more. I upload Magic Arena videos daily. And if you want to catch me live occasionally on Twitch, that is in the description as well. So, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all again tomorrow.